Edge Match. It's Edge Match. Edge Match. It's Edge Match. You're at Edge Match. Edge Match. Don't miss Edge Match. Don't miss Edge Match. You're at Edge Match. Edge Match. Don't miss Edge Match. Don't miss Edge Match.
Hey everybody, welcome to EduMatch. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm super excited because today we get to chat with Shawn Young, who is the CEO of Classcraft. So welcome, Shawn. It's great to have you on here.
Hey, Sarah. Thank you so much. I'm really glad to be here this morning.
Oh, thank you. We are super, super glad to have you as well. So I've been a huge fan of Classcraft for a while, so I'm like geeking out over here. But let me,
Awesome.
yeah, absolutely. But let me tell you all a little bit about Shawn. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about him from his bio. So Shawn is a co-founder of Classcraft. So with a unique background in physics education, gamification, and web development, he's interested in how we can create community in the classroom and how games can make learning fun and interactive. I'm all about that. Shawn taught 11th grade physics for 9 years and implemented innovative approaches such as flipped classroom, project-based, and game-based learning. He holds a bachelor's degree in physics and master's in education from Université de Sherbrooke. Did I say that correctly?
That is correct.
All right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Shawn is also a seasoned web developer working for clients such as Chanel, the Future of Storytelling Summit, Carnaval de Sherbrooke. Sherbrooke?
Just
Sherbrooke?
Yeah.
Sherbrooke. Okay, there we go. I need to stop, trying to get my accent on. Hydo-Quebec and the Feast Social Innovation Conference, and often teaming up with his brother Devin. At Classcraft, he leads product development, education, sales, and game design, leading the development team in building out the tech that drives the game, designing new features, and coordinating educational research projects. So that is just awesome. So again, super excited to have you here, Shawn. Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about what your background is and what what brought you to education?
Totally. So I was a teacher for 9 years. I taught physics. But as you mentioned, I didn't study education. I studied physics, and I went into physics thinking it was the only thing I couldn't learn on my own. And that was right. You can't learn quantum physics on your own, I don't think. And then I just realized physics research wasn't for me and started substitute teaching in my area, and I loved it. And which was pretty ironic because I'd really didn't like school. High school in particular was a really tough time for me in my life. And mostly because I was bored out of my mind. And so as a teacher, for me, the whole point was to respect the fact that kids had to be there. And they have to be there in their bodies, but they don't have to be there in their minds, right? So respect that fact and make every single class as meaningful as possible. And so, out of that came like project-based learning and a whole bunch of other like interesting pedagogical approaches. And then at one moment I just, was like, I love games. I'm a programmer. I'll just make my own game for my class. School should be like a game. And so that's kind of what started the Classcraft adventure for me. I just made it for myself. It was this thing I was doing with my students. It was very like low res compared to today. It was like paper D&D type of thing, right? Where kids would like get points, and I made this little web app to just like count all the points, and did that for 3 years, tweaking it, and it was really successful. So it worked really well with my students. They got super motivated, and we had a lot of fun. So I just put a little website online to talk about it. And the day that went online, 130,000 people came to the website. Thank you, Reddit. And then it was all over the world, and like journalists were calling to talk about it. And then I was like, okay, people really want this, so we'll get in and start Classcraft. And that's when I teamed up with my brother Devin, who we've been working for together for a long time. He's based in New York, and he would get us contracts and do all the design work, the client work, the art direction, and then I would do all the programming work remotely. So we'd already been a team for like 10 years before we started Classcraft. And funny enough, our third co-founder is actually our dad, he was an accountant and somebody who'd done a lot of work, in business administration. So he came on as our CFO. So, so long question. That's like the genesis of Classcraft. But why did I actually get into education? It was really because for me, that it was a traumatic experience. Like school was just like not an awesome experience. And so, I kind of set out to change that as much as possible for kids, and, in the classroom on a small scale, and now today with Classcraft on a much larger scale.
That is such an awesome story. I just love hearing the history behind it and love the fact that your family is so behind it as well. So all three of you are working together as a team effort. The next question I have for you. So Classcraft is so big and so popular, but there's people who are constantly like learning things, getting connected. So if anyone's watching who is not familiar with Classcraft, could you please tell us a little bit about it? Like, what are the main features and how can educators use it in the classroom?
Yeah, totally. So Classcraft is, we're calling it an engagement management system. And so we've, originally we were like, oh, it's like gamified classroom management. And now it's become so much more than that. And really what we found is that it's the only way that we know of to systematically and systemically drive engagement. And so there's a lot of like tools in ed tech for, like, you look at something like Kahoot, super engaging, but for a short period of time, right? What we wanted to do is something very engaging, but for as long as possible, and in as broad a way as possible. And so what that means is to give meaning to school. And so Classcraft is a game layer that sits on top of normal classroom and adds meaning to it for students. And so what that means is that like coming to school becomes a game. And in making it into a game, games are really good at fostering intrinsic motivation. So you put in extrinsic rule sets, and you, through that, drive internal motivation. An example I like to give about that is golf. The point of golf is to take a ball and put it in a hole at the end. If I were to tell you to do that, you'd be like, okay, take the ball, jump in a golf cart, drive over to the end, put the ball in the hole, and be like, okay, I'm going home. Be like, no, wait, that's not golf. You're supposed to use special clubs, and you have to count your strokes, and you have to dress a funny way. And there's all these rules around it. And actually, it's those rules that give the experience meaning. The experience of taking a ball and putting it much further down, in a hole is meaningless. But when you put the rules around it, that's what gives it meaning. And that's what, golfers get up at 6 a.m. on a Sunday to go golf. And the reason they do that is because of these arbitrary rules giving meaning to this activity. Mm-hmm. And so that's what Classcraft is. It's a way to do that for the classroom. And so it's run by an app, and the idea is that there's three components to it. There's behavior management, there's the classroom engagement tool for live instruction, and then there's a whole personalized learning engine for curriculum. And so kids have an avatar. They're warriors, healers, or mages, and based on that, they gain points. And they can get points from a variety of things like completing work in the quests, things like different activities in the classroom, or behavior management. So participating well in class, being inclusive, showing empathy. As they level up, they unlock powers. And so those powers will be things like you get to eat in class, or you can hand in an assignment a day late, or you can get a hint on an exam question, or, your middle school, you get to skip the lunch line. So, whatever it is that makes sense for students, teachers can obviously change it and put whatever they want. But the idea is that it has an impact on their real life. And so they get these points. Teachers can give them points for behavior. As they level up, they get also a lot of really cool gear. And maybe I could share my screen here. I'll pop it open just so people can see what the characters look like. This is kind of important. It seems kind of vain, especially if you're not a gamer. But for kids, the avatar component is really important. Because when you think about it, being in school and being a teenager or middle school child is all about your sense of identity and developing who you are. And Classcraft avatars really represent that, right? And so you start off kind of, wearing leather and with a wooden shield, and as you level up, you can like really deck out your character. And so there's millions of combinations here of like different capes and boots and little pets they can collect that are kind of like Pokemon. Basically the game is designed to give kids the opportunity to be heroes for one another. So they're playing in teams. It's a collaborative game. And that's really important because when you think of, a lot of people think gaming, they think competition, right? And competition is really motivating if you're at the top of the leaderboard. Like if you're the winner, you're motivated, or if you think you could be the winner. But if you're at the bottom and you've got like 40 other kids on top of you, you're just going to give up. Be like, why would, like, heck with this. I can't beat these 39 other kids. And so what we need to do is actually motivate those kids. Those kids that are at the bottom are the ones that need the most help. And so how do you do that? You create a meaningful experience around being in teams. And so, they can lose. So they gain health point, experience points for all kinds of like things teachers can give them points for, but they can also lose health points for negative things. So this is on the behavior management side, but it could be things like, arriving late to class and, lose 10 health points. What's cool here is that video games are really motivating because they allow you to fail. Like if you've ever played Mario Brothers and you get hit by a turtle, the cartridge doesn't explode and that's it. It's Mario goes from big to small and, and then you can keep playing. And so that's the same thing here. You take a hit, you keep playing. For example, this player is going to lose all their health points. So, keep losing health points. And this is when you become game over. And when that happens, you get a real life consequence. It could be things like hand in an assignment a day early, or it could be things like, bring a treat for the class or learn something great about everybody in the class. So these group building activities, teachers can put what they want again. And then when that happens, the whole team loses health points. So all of a sudden they're in class as a team. And what happens, like this is the equivalent of like shooting in your own net and basketball. Like it would be like, Alex, the net's on the other side. Like, so students start auto-regulating each other's behavior. They start, working together as a team. And we've had studies done and like the collaboration just like goes through the roof. And then of course they can like intervene and help each other. Here, I'll just give the student some HP. So let's say Stacy here is going to lose some health points. Alex can come in with her shield and in doing that, take the hit for her teammate. And in doing that, gain experience points. So every time they help each other, they gain points. And so the way to win in Classcraft isn't to be the best student, it's to be the most helpful student. And that really changes classroom dynamics in a profound way. So that's the classroom management. There's a whole set of tools here. So there's like some really cool stuff as well. Like you can build quest lines. So these are like lesson plans that teachers can build in, and they're really great for a bunch of reasons. But one of them is because there's branching paths. So in terms of like personalized learning, students can have a student voice and choice in terms of how they want to like complete their learning activities. You can also like make it so that it's a path that is, a success path. Like students who would do the work here and get it right would go down this pathway, and students that wouldn't would go down this pathway. Or you could use it, let's say a gen ed student would go down here, but then a student that's like dyslexic, you would send them to do work here. But here, instead of reading, they would have like an audio capsule or something like that. And so this is a quest we did with Discovery, which we're actually just announcing on Monday. So here's a sneak peek. But basically, this is like a VR quest. So that like the content in here, like there's all these like you can build like cool storylines, and students progress through the map. And each of the tasks here is like a VR activity, in this case. But it could be worksheets, it could be YouTube videos. And students, they basically go through this VR experience, and in doing that, then they have to like do a little learning activity and then hand it in. They can collaborate and work together online on the platform. So really powerful stuff in terms of like lesson planning, but also making like going through the work meaningful, because ultimately you get points at every step of the way, and it ties back into your character. So there's a lot more in here, but I feel like that was a pretty lengthy answer.
Wow, that is just amazing. Like, I had heard a little bit about the Discovery Education stuff and was about to ask you, but this seeing it is just like, oh my gosh, this is just amazing. So do they like look at the VR stuff through like viewers, like Cardboard, or like, if they have like the headsets and things like that, or?
Yeah, they can do it, or they, that just runs on a Chromebook as well, like in the browser. So you can like pan it with your mouse. It's a little bit less, awesome than actually having a viewer, but it's also cool because if you do have a viewer, you can do it. But if you don't, then it's, we're all about impacting education at scale, right? So if I do like a VR thing and only like 1% of students can use it, it's a little less compelling in my mind in terms of impact. So this is cool because it's VR, but anybody can just do it in a Chromebook.
Totally. That is fantastic. So I'm really digging that and looking forward to diving in. So so this is a partnership between you and Discovery Education for Teacher Educator Week. Is that correct?
Yeah, the Discovery Educator Network.
All right, cool. So will it be available like long term, or is it just in place for the week?
No, it's going to stay online. Like people can go get the quest at classcraft.com/LP/discovery. And basically there's a link there and you can import the quest. What's cool with the quest is you can share them out. So we launched the quest feature in August, and since then like 80,000 of these quests have been made by teachers. And they're writing storylines. Like this is the one we made with Discovery, but it's in this other class. Give me a sec. This is one that was just done by a teacher. And this is like a math quest that was done by a middle school teacher. And it's the story of, red square and yellow square falling in love. And like the teachers are writing out all these storylines. It's super cool. And like writing a math love letter that is, the answer is I love you. And then like the tasks are like, do regular math homework. So this is where, earlier it was VR, but here it's just, regular, less sexy type of content, but, content made by teachers of stuff they would get their students to do anyways. But what they can do is share them out, right? So when you make a quest, you can share it and you get this link that's like basically the same thing as like a Google Drive link, right? And when you share it, anybody can get it. So when people are going to go to this address, which is, I'll just type it out here, basically classcraft.com/LP/discovery, you can get access to this great quest, and you just press here start, and it runs the quest, and you can get it into so if you're already using Classcraft, you can get this VR experience, and if not, then it runs you through creating an account, and then you can import it and get working. We're really excited to be working with Discovery just because it's the first step in working with content partners to really take their excellent content. Like Discovery has really good content, but add this whole layer of engagement and gamifying this other content that people already know and love, right? And so there's like it's the best of both worlds, because what we've built is an authoring platform, and now what we want to do is provide people with really good content that they can just get from what they're already using.
Wow, that is super cool. Like I'm looking at it, I'm getting all these sparks going off in my mind because I'm about to start teaching like a grad class, and I can see how like this can even be used in there, because I love the fact that you're able to like kind of customize the content for your own class. And I'll be working with in-service teachers, so this would be a great like way to demo it for them to use a new tool with their students.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And then that piece is really important. Like when we in the DNA of Classcraft is the idea that we can't tell teachers how to teach. Every teacher needs to be able to teach the way that they teach. We can guide them and help them, but ultimately for something so as innovative as Classcraft to be used in the classroom, it has to be as flexible as possible. We need to meet teachers where they're at, and we need to build tools that adapt themselves to teachers, not teachers adapting themselves to the tools. And so, when you're saying I'm going to use it with, pre-service teachers or in-service teachers, and we have people using it in grade 2, that's like a testament of like just how flexible the platform is. Like there's a lot in there to like sink your teeth in. But sometimes you can use just little bits and pieces, and you can just go as far as you want with it. And so we have a lot of teachers that they start off small. They just use like the behavior management piece, and they just give points for behavior. And then, year over year or month over month, they're like, oh, there's this in here. Oh, this is so cool. And they just And that, like, to me, that's awesome because it means you can start small, you can go within your zone of comfort. But as you become more and more familiar with the idea of, gamifying your classroom, there's always more to dig into. And to me, that means that we did a good job because we're able to, we have teachers who have been gamifying their classroom for years and years and like doing Minecraft and quest-based learning and they can jump in on Classcraft and, have all their needs met. And then we have teachers who've never played a game in their life and are jumping in on Classcraft and having their needs met as well. So I think that's like, I don't talk about it a lot, but like as an educator, like for me, that's really satisfying.
Yeah, I can totally see that. That is just so useful and just oh my gosh, I'm just digging it. The more I learn about the great stuff y'all are doing, the more I become a fan. So
Yay!
Stay tuned. The EduMatch podcast will be right back.
The Teacher's Journey takes a deeper look at how we grow, learn, and succeed in the world of education. Throughout the book, you'll follow the journey of 7 incredible educators that share their trials and triumphs as they walk along their own journey. The Teacher's Journey will challenge you to reflect on who you are and why you are in education, while providing personal examples and practical tools to use right now. Pairing with the book is the Teacher's Journey podcast. There you can hear great educators as they reflect upon their journey and share the lessons they have learned along the way. You can find more information about the book, the podcast, and lots more by visiting costellocorner.com, where you can also sign up for exclusive access to information, graphics, and educational training resources.
We're back. You're learning with EduMatch.
So what kind of advice would you have for other educators who may consider themselves teacherpreneurs and they want to build something for their students? So based on your own experience, what advice would you have for them?
Oh, that's a great question. Nobody ever asked me that before. Well, there's a few things. I think I think part of our success was Devin and I are both really technical people. Like I was a programmer and well, I still am. I just don't code very much anymore. And Devin, is a designer and he'd done a lot of marketing. And between the two of us, we had, most of the skills required to get Classcraft up and running. So I think that there's before you get into the adventure, make sure you either have the skill set you need or that you have the right people around you that are going to get in on the adventure with you. Because I think that you need a really especially if you're building an ed tech product, for example. There's other ways to be a teacherpreneur, right? But if you're building an ed tech product, the tech side of it is really important. Part of why Classcraft is so compelling is because it feels so authentic, right? It feels like a game. And Devin has, why did he go and get Chanel as a client? Because he really wanted to make to craft beautiful, awesome, experiences. And that's what we're doing with Classcraft. There's a really strong commitment to making world-class platform there. And I think that we have just the right balance of the pedagogy is sound, the psychology is sound, but then the tech is really awesome. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is make sure that you check off all the boxes. I think also if you thought you were working a lot as a teacher, starting a startup is 3x that amount of work. And I'm not saying teaching is a very demanding job. But starting a startup is crazy town. So be prepared in your mind. I think that also we were lucky because we immediately had a network just because it spread on the first day. I think that if you have a way as a teacherpreneur to be able to leverage a a network of folks and get to some sort of scale faster. That's really helpful. I think also there's also just like get in and do it, right? Like, I mean, and this depends on the state, but I'm based up here in Montreal and in Canada, and which is why there was all those French things at the beginning. But like I was able to just take a sabbatical off teaching. Like you can take like a year off and then come back. And so I did that, and then that was great because there's like no risk. Like, it's one of the like rare professions where you can just like, okay, I'll like stop my job and it'll be there when I come back, right? And so, of course that depends on your state and your area, but if you're lucky enough to be in a state where that's possible, like, you can just jump in. There's not that much risk.
Yeah, I like that. So definitely jumping in feet first, not head first, like not saying I quit,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
Taking the low risks and just going for your dream. So I really dig that. So that's cool. That's solid advice. So what can we expect to see from you and Classcraft in the future?
A lot of stuff. So we're a lot of what we talked about today was like the teacher focused part of Classcraft, like what's the tool. We've actually built a whole back end for administrators. Like in the last, like, that's what kind of like we launched Quest in August, and then over the winter what we were working on was like all the like school dashboards, administrator dashboards, district dashboards. And so there's some really awesome stuff in there. Like obviously we like solved all the like rostering things, and it used to be pretty complicated to roll it out at scale in the school because like teachers had to create their own accounts and they had to connect to each other, and there was no like central like here's my users and then just go, right? So we've got all that now. So it's like you can basically provision a school, and teachers come to their account and all the students are there and they just add them to their classes, a la Google Classroom, right? What's powerful though is that you can set up settings based on like grade level or special types of students. And so when teachers go into Classcraft, they like it's preset with our defaults, but the school's defaults. And that's awesome for a ton of reasons because when you're looking at things like PBIS implementations or social emotional learning, it's really important to have a common framework of language, right? So when you're saying here's 100 XP for being inclusive, and all your teachers are doing that, let's say you're a middle school child and you have 8 teachers, and they're all giving you points for the same things with the same wording, that creates a really, really, really strong momentum around, what's expected of me, what's like, I know how I want these points, I know how to get them, everybody's using the same language, and I have one character, and in all my classes I'm getting points. So that's really like a much more compelling experience, like in terms of impacting at scale, and so like with everything that's going on in schools right now in terms of gun violence and bullying, and people are really worried and thinking about school climate, and so when Classcraft gets rolled out at scale, what we're saying is you have an engagement management system, you can manage engagement at scale. And people are all like, oh yeah, I'm worried about engagement. I'm like, so what are you doing? Like, what are you doing to like, well, then they'll be like, well, we do this. I'm like, how do you know it works? How are you measuring it? And the answer is they don't know. And so with Classcraft, we're like getting all this data, and the data is coming in from, all the teachers, and it's data like this student was participative, this student was inclusive, this student showed empathy, this, et cetera, et cetera. And what we've done is in that backend build a proprietary school climate index, and we're actually calculating school climate off of Classcraft's data and reporting on it in real time for schools. It's really, I see your mouth going like, wow, but I'm not hearing you. But that's like, it's incredible. It's a game changer. Here, I'll show you like a mock-up. So this is for a school, and basically we're like factoring in like negative behaviors, positive behaviors, collaboration, absenteeism, engagement metrics, and we're basically giving a score for the whole school. And so think about it like, there's like the Fortnite problem happening right now, right? Where, this game is so popular and kids are playing it on their mobile phones in class. And so a lot of schools have started like putting buckets at the door of the classroom, and students have to put in their phones in there. And so let's say you're a leader and you're saying, okay, like I have this like problem with Fortnite. How am I going to solve it across the whole school? Okay, we'll put buckets. How do you know the impact that has on kids' mental state? How do you know the impact that has on like classroom management? How do you know the impact that has on behavior? Well, you can't unless you have something like Classcraft. And so, this could be, this was school climate at this point. Then I did the like mobile phone in a bucket policy, and boom, it like dropped down significantly. Or maybe it was like, it was pretty bad and now it's going up as a result of having done that. And so for leaders, what it allows them to do is like make these policy decisions around like how the school is going to be run, and then see the impact in terms of social emotional learning and school climate and classroom behavior. And that's just like incredibly powerful for them because they don't have this data. Like the only data they have is like referrals and suspensions, right? And that's like in terms of behavior, and that's like terrible because it's data that is only for outliers, right? And B, it's only negative data. Like you don't like, this is like, here's all the great stuff kids are doing. And here's like the students that are, getting the most points. And, maybe you should go high five Theodore because he's like, rocking it this week. And, here are the behaviors that like teachers are focusing on and rewarding. And so it really gives you the pulse of what's happening in your building. And then at the district level, like you could see all the different schools and then like see their school climate rating. And then, say, oh, this school is doing really great. Let's go see what they're doing and like try to bring it to this other school that's struggling. So pretty transformative stuff in terms of like using the data. What's awesome about our data as well is like it's the fidelity is really high because a lot of like behavior type tracky stuff like relies on like the teacher saying, I observed this behavior and I'm going to like take the effort to go log it into this system, right? And you'd say, it's kind of the same thing with Classcraft. They have to go give points, but the kids really want the points. And that really changes the conversation because it's not like teachers saying, oh, right, I forgot I have to go log this. It's like the kids are like, wasn't I empathetic? Give me my points, right? And it forces fidelity on the teacher in a good way because, there's like this virtuous cycle of like the more fidelity there is, the more kids care about it. And the more kids care about it, the more fidelity there is. And so we're logging like 10 million data points a month right now of like all this behavioral data and using it to generate these reports. So some awesome school-wide features coming and that are still in development. The other thing is we just launched an API to integrate with other EdTech partners. So we're working with other companies than Discovery, which we will be announcing probably around at ISTE. There's one that I can tell you about. So there's a small EdTech company called Studio, and they do it's like a task manager for students. And they've hooked it into Classcraft so that when kids complete tasks in their task manager and planning, or when they plan out a task, they get points back into Classcraft. And so what that does is, in effect, drives motivation and engagement in a much more massive layer, not just the behavior stuff, but like we're hooked into like Google Classroom and like really like you hand in homework in Google Classroom, you get points in Classcraft. Like we did all that work, but now people are doing the work on the other side to gamify their ed tech products and make them more engaging. And then we're going to be working on like producing more and more quality quests so that people can just come in and import storylines and not have to do as much work there.
This is just like exactly what's needed because, like you said, it highlights the positive and just kind of gives a holistic sense of the child. So definitely love that, and I love how you can see it across schools and across districts and all of that. So that is amazing. So definitely wanted to thank you so much for taking the time today to chat with us, to chat with all the EduMatch family. So definitely appreciated learning more about Classcraft. I'm excited. So how can people get in contact with you online?
Well, they can just go to classcraft.com. There's, if it depends for which reason. So there's a bunch of like different endpoints. Like, the easiest way is just to go to classcraft.com, and there's like a chat window there, and you can just chat with somebody on our team. You can write support@classcraft.com. You can start a free account as a teacher. You can just go in and log in. The classroom management part is all free. The quests and like all that other stuff is part of the paid license. But even the free product is way better than what I had when I was a teacher with my students. So it's pretty compelling on its own, just the free product. And so people can already just go get started right away. There's a ton of like help videos, like help articles to help you get started. And then we have somebody on, like as I was saying, on chat, 9 to 5. Just his name is Nick. His job is to like just answer teachers who have questions. So you can just log in and say, "Hey Nick, like how do I do this?" And he'll answer. And then we're going to do something cool this summer. It's going to be like Classcraft on the beach, where it's like you should be at the beach, but instead you're like trying to start Classcraft. So come to our beach. And so we're just gonna have like a video chat open all day, and you can just pop in whenever you want and talk to the team and get help. And because what we saw is that like the people who are up and running fastest with Classcraft are people who have it intro to them by a friend, right? And so we'll be that friend for the summer.
That is awesome. So definitely looking forward to all of the great developments that are coming forward, and looking forward to more continued success and just amazingness from you and the Classcraft team. So thank you again for joining us today, Shawn. It's definitely a pleasure chatting with you.
Thanks, Sarah. Always happy to connect with you.
Thank you. Same here. And for our viewers, then be sure to join us tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to be talking with Seth Bridges about content creation. So there's still time to sign up for the panel at podcast.edumatch.org/sign up, and watch it tomorrow at our link podcast.edumatch.org/tweet talk. So everybody have a great Saturday, and see y'all soon.
Edge match. It's edge match. Edge match. It's edge match. You're at edge match. Edge match. Don't miss edge match. Don't miss edge match. You're at edge match. Edge match. Don't miss edge match. Don't miss edge match.
If you wanna be somebody, if you wanna go somewhere, you better wake up and pay attention. It's either now or never to make your dreams come true. You better wake up and pay attention. Hey everybody, it's Dean from Orlando, Florida, coming to you on Monday, April 2nd, 2018. And I am very excited because today is the official release date of my first solo book titled The Why in You. Journey to the Why in You. I'm very excited that this is available on Amazon in Kindle versions and in paperback. There's your back cover right there. I am so excited because when I think about my journey as an educator, it didn't start yesterday. It started even from an early age. And so this book contains anecdotes, stories about the why in me. And so as you read it, as you pick it up, and I encourage you to do so, I challenge you to consider the why in you, the obstacles, right? That were not always positive. They were not always easy. The journey's never easy, but it is worth it. And there is something positive in every negative if you can just see it. I really do believe that. There is something positive in every obstacle that if you could just see it, it will help you to continue going on that journey as an educator, as an administrator, as a teacher. And so we have a job to do. And so that journey is so important to be embraced. And thank you in advance for checking it out on Amazon. Again, it's The Why in You. You can even type my name in on Amazon. It should pop it right up. You can also go to deangainey.com and find it there. You can click directly on the link and it'll take you to Amazon. Again, thanks in advance for checking it out, and have a great day, as well as Identify the why in you.